Okay, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Lancaster Affordable Housing Trust for Thursday, June 6th, 2024 at 7:07 p.m. We'll get going right away. Let's start with our roll call attendance. Trustee and Select Board Representative Jason Allison.
Here.
Trustee Deborah Williams. You're muted, Deb. We can see you, we just can't hear you.
If you write it in the chat, we can consider it a go.
Oh my gosh, my Zoom screen went away. Yeah.
Panic.
Sorry. Oh, one of those nights.
Trustee ex officio and Director of Health and Human Resources, Kelly Dolan.
Present.
Trustee and Chair Victoria Petracca is present. Trustee Carolyn Reed has a work conflict tonight. And Trustee Frank Streeter, our secretary, let me know he has a family emergency that has come up. So sort of out of character for the Affordable Housing Trust, we're down 2 members tonight. In Frank's absence, Deb, would you be willing to take notes for him and send him your invoice? Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted again.
It's the one time I wasn't prepared in printing the agenda, but which I like to do, but I will wing it, I guess.
Okay, right. You can also watch, I mean, yeah, I can have Frank watch the recording too. I mean, take notes, and then I'll also remind Frank that he can watch the recording.
Yeah.
All right, which reminds me that I need to state that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast on the Lancaster Sterling cable television in its loop, and also it will be available on town hall streams. Okay, next we have 2 terms expiring this month, June 30th. Trustee Frank Streeter, whose 2-year term was just renewed at the last select board meeting, and Trustee Deborah Williams has requested a 2-year renewal. Thank you, Deb. And that should hopefully get approved at the next select board meeting. So just administrative note on that. Carolyn Reed, we know, is moving and her seat will open up, but she has not resigned yet. She doesn't know exactly when she's moving, sometime this summer, early fall. All right, approval of meeting minutes. I'm going to table this. Frank has not circulated the minutes from May 2nd. He sent me a note. He knows he needs to do it, hasn't gotten to it. So we will hopefully get those and approve them at our next meeting. And that brings us to scheduled appearances. And we have Bob DePietri with us this evening. Bob, are you on? Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me, Victoria?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thanks.
Great. So Bob is here from Capital Group Properties to just speak with us briefly about the 40R project in particular. As everyone knows, there are other, there's another project in the works for Lancaster, but we're just focusing this evening on the 40R mixed use residential and commercial project. And this is across from Kimball's on Route 70. Everyone knows that that was rezoned for 40R, and we're excited to see the project come out of the ground. And I understand that Capital Group has been working with the state agencies on the environmental permitting over with the MEPA folks. And I would just like to invite Bob to give the Housing Trust and then folks who will watch this meeting and the recording, just give us the flavor of what's going on with that and an updated timeline of when we might expect to see this come to Lancaster for local permits and approvals. Again, speaking mainly of the 40R project. I mean, it's okay to talk about the other project, but I just want to be clear, our focus is bringing Lancaster into safe harbor and the affordable part of the project.
Yeah, happy to do so, Victoria. It just, from our standpoint, it's all one project because we're
Yep.
not, doing our pieces. We're, as we presented to the town, it's a mixed use development. And the way we're working on it, it's one big project. Once we get through MIPA, then we will get it at the local level. Approvals will be in different phases. But right now, in order to get the MIPA approval, the whole project is being presented as a whole.
Understood. Yeah.
So basically, since the town meeting, we've been working to develop the next MIPA submittal, which is called a supplemental draft environmental impact report. So we've been working, I think, well over a year to update all the reports and studies that we've had to do based on the new plan that was submitted to the town meeting. That the majority of that work has been done. There's one remaining issue, which I think most people in town, aware that there's an issue, between the partners on the project, mainly concerning a utility easement that we need in order to submit the MIPA. And until that issue is resolved, we're probably not going to submit the MIPA because we don't want it to get kicked back again. And without resolving this issue, the recommendations from our attorneys and our engineers is to do not submit that until this issue gets worked out. So we're basically at the point where we could submit it, pending the resolution of this issue. And, we're trying to get the issue resolved. It hasn't been resolved as of yet, but, it's ongoing. So that's the MIPA aspect of the project. Simultaneously, we're working with the Lancaster Planning Board and Conservation Commission to get approval for the subdivision road, revised subdivision road, which is a little bit different than what we had gotten approved back in 2020. I think we have a hearing with conservation on the 11th, and I believe on the planning board on the 26th. So we're moving things forward as much as we can, but we can't actually submit the MIPA to the state until this issue gets resolved. This one remaining issue gets resolved, but that's basically where we're at right now.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Brian, is that just to double check that with the planning board meeting, and then, well, you don't necessarily know about conservation, but does that sound right to you that we're all on the same page for the subdivision road?
Yes, I mean,
Yep.
the 24th.
24th. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And yes, in the conservation meeting, it would be, yes, the next one coming up.
Okay. All right. And to go back to the thing that's holding up the MIPA, I mean, without going out of our purview and into legal matters that, are not with the town of Lancaster, but is this, if this is the one thing holding up the MIPA review, are we talking like a 3-month holdup, a 6-month holdup, or an indefinite holdup? Do you have any sense of that, Bob?
I don't. I mean, I'm always the optimistic one, and we are working to resolve it, but it's not indefinite. I mean, these things tend to work themselves out over time, so I'm hopeful it'll be sooner than later. But as of now, I don't have a good feel for what we're talking. But probably in another month or two, I'll have a better idea, I think.
All right. And so I heard you say you won't submit MIPA until that's resolved because it will just get kicked back.
Correct. And we want to submit, we've addressed all the issues that they brought up, the last time that they issued a decision on this. And we think we've addressed every issue that they have. And, we want this application to go through as fast as possible. There still remains to be, decent interest on the commercial side of the project. And obviously we need that to happen in order to, kick off, the other part, because that's what's going to kick the project off. We're not going to start the project, unless we have some users to, for the commercial piece, because, from an economic standpoint, it doesn't make sense. we've got to spend a lot of money bringing infrastructure, utilities, road work in, and we
Right.
really, based on our submission to the town, I mean, it's pretty much, we're on track to do what we planned on doing and what was, represented to the town, and, pending the resolution of this issue, and then securing, the first user to kick the project off.
Okay. What's happening on Jungle Road?
We're actually marketing that right now. We've actually had some good activity. I had a marketing meeting yesterday on that with the brokers,
Yeah.
and we're hoping to secure a user for that so we can get that building started. So there's actually been, and just in talking with the brokers yesterday, not just on Jungle Road, we were talking on this project as well. There's going to be a major announcement in the next month or two up in that area, not in Lancaster, but in that
Right.
area. But it's going to help our project for a very significant user that's going to come up into that area there. So it's going to help. And the activity, it's not what it was 3 years ago, but there's still people out there looking to build facilities, and I think there's a compelling reason for a lot of companies to come to that area.
All right. Well, obviously we're eager to see this, the MIPA holdup, cleared up, and
Mhm.
you are as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll keep you posted. If something breaks, I'll definitely let you know, as that happens.
all right. There's nothing that we can do, so we're just watching.
I know. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the Housing Trust? I see Dick Trussell is on tonight. Brian, any questions or comments for Bob tonight? Jason?
I don't at the moment. I'm actually, I'm having a staff meeting tomorrow within our own department just to, with the upcoming meetings, just to, review where we are at this point, and to get ready for the conservation meeting next week, and the planning board meeting on the 24th.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Trussell, just state your address, please. Your name and address.
15 Burbank Lane.
Yeah.
Bob, it's been a while. Pleasure to talk to you again. As you mentioned that there is relatively good commercial interest. When you're talking about that, are you talking about warehouse, or are you talking about small business, or both, or exactly what is your definition of relatively good commercial interest?
Hi Dick, how you doing? It's still, it's a mix. Most of the buildings we have, as the master plan, that we presented to the town had the 1 million square foot building. My feeling is right now is the users are not as big as that in the market today. So there's a lot of interest, say in the 100 to 300,000 square foot range. So I think, if we were to start building today, I think there would end up, you wouldn't see the 1 million square foot building. You would probably see 3 smaller buildings on that site. And just based on what the market demand is, but, be the same square footage. It just, in the presentation we made to the town for town meeting, we had an alternate B, which instead of that 1 million square foot building on the building A site, it had 300,000 plus buildings. So I think it's more in that range today. That said, as well, there's a lot of, from the smaller businesses like you brought up, and not as much in Lancaster because we don't really have anything we can offer today, and those businesses tend to move quicker. But at Jungle Road, I mean, we're probably dealing with 5 or 6 companies in the 20 to 60,000 foot range that have requirements coming up in the next year or so. So I'd say that end of the market with the smaller tenants, there's a lot more activity right now. And that's not just warehousing, Dick. Some of it is, light manufacturing and different uses. So it's not strictly a warehouse. We're starting to see some different uses out in that area there. And I think that's going to continue. And we're hopeful once this, significant transaction gets announced in the next couple of months, it's going to bring, put some more eyes out in that area, I think. And it's west of Lancaster, so that's only going to help, the towns that are east of this location along Route 2.
How does the small retail business look?
Dick, I'll tell you, I think if that space was up today, we'd probably have at least retail is very, very strong right now. Across the boards in all areas, other than your big enclosed malls, those continue to struggle. But any open air retail, I mean, we're basically across our portfolio at about 100% occupancy, and with a lot of demand out there and no space for it to go to. So, I mean, that I think would do very well if we had that, if we were able to build that today.
All right, so the MEPA thing is what's holding up the problem for Lancaster. Is that, if that's true, and only as much as you're willing to say, can you define what the problem is between the two parties? Is it money? Is it ownership? Is it disagreement? Well, what is it you're trying to solve?
Well, what I'm trying to solve, Dick, is one piece of it, and that's, I can't really get into the details of what the dispute involves, but the one issue that is impacting MEPA is we need a utility easement in order to get the water line from Leominster into our property, and that's what's holding it up right now.
Is there any other direction the water line can take?
Possibly. But this is still the quickest and easiest way to get it there. But if it doesn't look like that's going to happen, we're gonna pursue the other alternatives we could do. Unfortunately, that's involves dealing with the state, and you know how that goes from a timing standpoint. It's not the quickest thing. So my efforts have been more to try and get this to a resolution than to do that. But if it came to the point where there's no way it's ever going to get resolved, and I personally find that hard to believe, I think it'll get resolved because these situations usually do. Then we would pursue the alternative that we have.
All right. Now this is a little bit tricky, and you don't have to answer it. At one point, you had good relationships and an agreement.
Yes.
Now
yes.
you don't have a good relationship, and you have a disagreement.
Yep. I think that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Is there any I guess I don't know. I'll just ask you, how did that happen, or can you not answer that?
Yeah, I'd really rather not answer that, Dick.
All right,
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, but thank you for even considering it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you, Dick. Jason, Allison?
Yep, Victoria, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yep. So, Mr. DiPietro, I'd just like to reiterate Lancaster's commitment to landowners and developers like yourself that help work with us to diversify our industrial commercial development, which will also help diversify our tax base. So at least as me, as an individual member of Select Board, I want you to know that you have my support. And if there's anything that the town can do, I want to be part of that solution. And just looking forward to, continuing moving forward with this project, and it's going to significantly help Lancaster and its fiscal stability. Thank you.
Great, Jason. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I think that's, one reason that we have a select board representative on the Affordable Housing Trust is so that all of these large projects, can hopefully move in a strategic way through the town, like as part of not these like ad hoc things that just happen in the town, but to have real strategy for economic development, real strategy for reaching our housing goals and getting into safe harbor. And what I like about this project is that we do have job opportunities. We've got, things with the housing. It's mixed income housing, but there's the possibility of employment nearby. Everything's there. Public transport is there. We're bringing in, the MART regional bus system, and the trails are right there. It checks off all the boxes. So it's such a poster project, not just for Lancaster, but for the region and the state. as a whole. So I want to reiterate on behalf of the Housing Trust how committed we are to seeing this through. And it goes without saying that, whatever we can do on our end to support getting this done. It's not just about getting into safe harbor, but it's about doing it in ways that make sense overall for the town and checking all these various boxes at once. So it's this particular issue feels like it's completely out of our control, which, we like to see things happening. And so it's hard because we can't do anything. We can't fix it. But we're totally committed to making this happen, Bob. So
I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
believe me, I'm as frustrated as you are. Needless to say.
I hope to see it in my lifetime. That's all. But thank you for making time to come and give us an update. I know there have been questions. I've gotten questions from residents about, we don't see Capital Group because, I guess you're there for the planning board
Yep,
and conservation commission meetings for that subdivision road, but there have been comments made like the project isn't moving forward, it's not happening, forget about that or that sort of thing. And I, for one, like when I hear that, I say I don't believe that that's based in any actual evidence or any facts. So it was good to get clarity from you directly on where things stand.
I have another question, Victoria, if possible.
If it's related to, I'm trying to keep it within the scope of this project and housing and all that. Go ahead.
Well, I'll ask it and you tell me, but I definitely think it is.
Okay.
Have the other two lots, which are for sale, been sold yet? Or is there any interest in them? That's not a Bob question because I don't think Bob owns those other two lots. But they are right across from the affordable housing. So I'm wondering if anything is happening with those lots.
Not that I know of, but are you talking about that are lots within the 40R district?
Yes, on the other side of the Dunkin' Donuts, there's one facing the road and there's one right behind the Dunkin' Donuts.
So not housing wise. I mean, nothing has come to the Affordable Housing Trust. Bob, have you heard anything on those?
I mean, I've talked to a few people that, have had some interest in those, Victoria. I know one group, I think, was a hotel group. But I don't know as far as what they've done because, we don't own those lots, but,
right.
Anybody who looks at them calls us. And there's been, I won't say a lot of interest, but there's been a couple of people that have reached out to us over the last year or so. So I'm not sure where they're at with that. I haven't heard that anything's under agreement. I'm pretty sure we would hear it because they're also probably looking to tie into, our utilities anyway. Right. So I don't think it's going to go very far until we get our stuff approved.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Dick?
Yes, because I'm interested in all kinds of business because there's also across the street behind Kimball's that we should be looking at.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Unless there are other comments or questions for Bob, I'm going to wrap this agenda item up and move on and just thank Bob again for taking time with us tonight and keep us posted. We hope that you will let us know ASAP when this MEPA issue, this holdup, clears up. So
I'll definitely stay in touch with you and let you know.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 4. The progress on our housing production plan. So Community Scale gave us a draft of this very important chapter of a housing production plan called the Housing Needs Assessment. And I sent that out 10 days ago or so. They wanted us to take a look at it and just, give us preliminary feedback rather than wait until the whole document was done, which I appreciate. I like that, getting it in pieces. I had some feedback. I don't know, Brian, how do you want to do this? Are you going to package up our feedback and get it to Nels? Or would you like me to send him an email and just,
We could do it either way. I wasn't, you mean just in terms of taking notes and, just, or in terms of our high level discussion on this and get it back to him?
well, I bumped into him at the presentation of the master plan. He was
Yeah.
there for the house, as you know, he was there for the housing piece. And I asked him, if he was going to be here tonight. He said, no, he couldn't be here tonight, but he wants to know if we have comments or feedback or things that caught our eye or, or seem
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, I
So
mean, I'd be
he wants
glad, I'd be happy to take, comments either,
Okay.
tonight and then maybe, by summarize those in an email to me tomorrow, and I can get those over to Nels.
All right, that's fine. So you and I can work together to
Yeah.
get him whatever. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So Kelly and Deb and Jason, do you have feedback or comments, anything about that housing needs assessment that Community Scale did for Lancaster? And then I'll give you mine after that.
I do not.
Kelly or Deb?
I do not.
Okay. And Kelly?
I do not actually at this time, but I'm really proud of the work that he did. I have a few like insights, but nothing that I want to talk about as feedback at this moment. But I'm definitely curious about what you have to say, Victoria.
Well, some of it's kind of granular, but I do want to get it to him. And then I have like an overarching comment. So why don't I start with my overarching comment? My overarching comment is I think it's a really nice presentation. I like how it flows. Some of it's just a requirement for the state. He's checking boxes. We have to present our population. We have to present our housing stock. And so he's checking all those boxes off, which is great. But I do like visually, I do like how he did it, and it's broken down. But I do think he could make it a little more user friendly. I don't know if he just needs to like put stuff in bold, or I was feeling a little death by charts, like in by page, whatever, 20 or something, like my eyes were starting to glaze over. I don't really know what the solution is, because he's required to present all those charts. The state needs those, or they won't sign off on this housing production plan. So he's meeting all the requirements, but it gets like, oh my gosh, like how many times can we slice and dice this data about our town? So I was wondering, Brian, if he could just put something in, like use some bold, or put like I don't know, something on the bottom of each page that gives the really simple, like if I just flip through this and I only read this thing at the one statement at the bottom of each page or something, like, I don't know.
Well,
If
I was
more
thinking the
user
same.
friendly, it gets a little dense, even though it's
Right.
a nice visual presentation, it
Yeah.
gets heavy. So that was my overarching comment. And I don't think it's clear enough in the recommendations. So, tell us what you think is, like, I want him to just spit it out and say, you guys need more rental housing.
Right. Well, this is what I was thinking. There should be, I know the executive summary, the entire report, but I think, the part of the executive summary that would address the housing need assessment. I mean, it's, I think it's clear through the charts that you can see where our deficits are. There's, only, we need young families coming into town, and the
Right.
only young families that are moving into town are those at, 120% plus of AMI, and that
Right.
seems to be a diminishing portion, or an underrepresented part of the families in town. So I think that speaks to the to the need for a diverse range of price points and housing type. So I think I would like to have seen him, and what does this look like? How does this happen? this is just the housing needs assessment part, but I'd like to start seeing that, I'm explaining what does it mean for the town? What are these
yep.
charts are showing, pretty alarming, pretty alarming trends,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think it just needs to come out in really
Mhm.
simple language, simple, bold. If for the resident, I want our residents to read this thing. I don't want them to be put off by like it's too many words and too many charts.
Yeah.
So
The only other, the other thing, I was a little surprised at, but I wanted to talk to him about is, the over reliance on, ACS. It says ACS and
right.
it's census numbers. I know there are other proprietary data, analysis and, analytics out there that show regional trends, and it can show where Lancaster is in regionally, and what is it meeting, or is it just a typical town and this is what's
Yeah.
going on across the state, or is this something, is there anything in Lancaster that's unique? So yeah, I want to ask him about that
Yep,
too.
I agree. Yeah, I noticed that too. I don't know if there are many agencies that do the extrapolating like that out. Like you could get the census data, but if you want the trend, the
Well, I mean,
extrapolation, that's ACS. So I don't know.
right. Well, I mean, it's the ACS, but there's also, companies, or software that specialize and provide, and if I was a planner doing this type of thing, I'd be investing and paying the money to get this, data analysis and this data aggregation, in different, and you can,
Yep,
format it in different
it's a
ways.
good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good point. I think you should definitely bring it up with him. I do. I think it's a good point. Can I just give you my short list of the granular stuff?
Yeah, just let me grab
Okay.
yep, I have it right here. Yeah.
Okay, and then I can help with emails and stuff to Nels, but I just want it for the record, like on the public record. I mean, I don't want to just
Sure.
send you an email on the side. I want to just because we're having a meeting and it's recorded, I just want to say it for public record, so there's no question. So I want him to state very clearly it's on page 2 and on page 3 that it's not about just meeting 10%, that the requirement is to be above 10%. There's on page 2 and on page 3, he says Lancaster, needs to meet its 10% goal or something. And that's actually, it's not 10%, it's above. The statute says over. And I remember talking with the new DHCD, Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, and having this whole conversation with them and saying like, if we're at 10, is that okay? And it's no, it's not. It's they turn towns down all the time at 10. It has to be above.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of obsessed with that. So he just needs to say it really clearly that
Well,
it's over 10. Please don't say 10.
Right.
Over 10. And then the other thing he said on 2 and 3 is he's using words like we encourage Lancaster, or the state encourages towns. It's not about encouraging or recommending, or these are state laws, they're requirements, and we have to be. So I just want him to like tighten up that language on pages 2 and 3. Over 10% requirements, statutes, mandates, words like that. That it's not like it's a good idea, it's suggested, it's recommended, none of that. Get rid of all that and say it's required by law, and that if we don't do it, we're not compliant, period. And then the next thing was on page 3, he's using that ACS data. So let me think about how to say this clearly. He's talking about our current SHI, and he says that we're at like 5 point something, the current SHI. That's not right. It's our current SHI is 6.21. But it's because he's not when he does that ratio, he's using the 2022 ACS extrapolated figure of our housing stock. That's not what the state uses. The state uses the 2020 census number.
Yeah,
And our 2020 census number is 2,736. Now, if he wants to include a paragraph, I think it's smart. Include the extrapolated data to show the trend and, like what it's going to rise to in our housing inventory. I'm all about being ready for what comes down the road all day long. Use that and add another paragraph and tell us where we need to be. But also be accurate that right now, our current SHI, it's the state law is that it's your inventory over your current housing, your affordable inventory over your current total inventory.
right.
So, and that number is 170, not what he uses 171.
Yeah.
It's not, it's 170. I think it's because he's adding in Mr. Safi's thing on Main Street, but
yeah.
that hasn't been added to our SHI yet. So
Yeah.
we're at 170 over 2,736. So our current SHI,
2,736 is a census, 2020 census number.
that's the 2020 census number. So
Not-
he
not
needs to
the
have a paragraph
extrapolated.
about that. He needs to insert a little paragraph about where we are currently.
His methodology.
And then he can keep, if he wants to keep the extrapolated data from ACS, great, I think he should. But that's not what the state uses. The state doesn't extrapolate on our behalf. They use what you currently have.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then page 5, this is really picky, but in the second paragraph, it's housing needs, little typo or something. And then he says table at right. He left something out. It's table at the right. Page 14, it's households. He used the word the number of housing. He said something like the number of housing. It should be the number of households. Page 19, this is a bigger one. Page 19, I don't understand if he's using Lancaster data or he refers to the area. I don't know what that means. The area, like what is that the Lancaster and the surrounding towns, or?
Well, usually they have to point out, it's not the region, but they, when you're doing a housing production plan, you point out the surrounding towns, like you'd want to compare it to like a Leominster, but also something like a Bolton. So that should be defined.
Yes.
And using the similar, you're comparing, different charts or different indicators should be using the same towns for comparison. So, but he didn't define those.
I don't know what he's, yeah, page 19, I just need to know what he's referring to, what area.
What is the area? Yeah.
What is that? Is it Lancaster or is it some other larger?
Well, it's going to be an area. I don't think it's going to be the entire Montechusett region, but I think I think it's usually it would be like Shirley, Lunenburg.
It has a chart with it. It has like a data chart, so it needs to say what it's using for a.
Yeah.
It's okay. And then page 21, the same thing. I don't understand if that's page 21 is on rents. It has his rental data, and he doesn't specifically state if that's Lancaster or if it's some like regional rental data. And I just want clarity. Just want to know.
Yeah.
And page 23, in his recommended housing mix, there is he has it in the, in his key, he has like a color for public housing, but in the graph, he has 0 public housing. Is he suggesting that we have no public housing? I don't understand if that's the recommendation, or why like Bigelow Gardens would.
Just public housing.
Yeah, and we have that now. Is he saying don't do anything like that again? And I don't understand why we wouldn't want to have that.
Well, I mean, it's just the fact there's not a lot of public housing being built. The subsidized housing, but public housing funded and constructed by HUD for deeply subsidized. There's not HUD is the federal government and the state government, I mean, there is some going on. I can't say there's much, but there's generally not a lot. The state,
No, but I'll tell you, Bigelow Gardens is the only place in town where you have the under 30% area median
right,
income.
that's the thing. I mean, so most
So-
of these places, you know, they're in property management now, but they're not in affordable housing development. That's the,
Well, I just want
I don't
clarity
know if that's
for
what he's
Nell's,
getting for. Yeah.
for Nell's chart on page 23. He has public housing in his key, but he doesn't have it in our Lancaster recommendations, like breakdown of what to
Yeah.
build. So
Okay, yeah, but
I
I
don't
mean,
know about
again,
that.
Victor, I just think the important thing, one, we have no control over public housing being built, and two, there's very little new public housing being built. And it's probably not likely to happen.
Kelly, are you hearing this conversation? Kelly Dolan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute
That's
myself.
okay.
Yep.
I don't want to go on a big rabbit hole about this, but do you hear me loud and clear when I get on my soapbox about we need the less than 30% AMI in our town?
Yes,
And I
do.
don't know how to do that without a public component.
Yes, I do hear you. I think it's probably something not that we need to table for any bad reason, but I think it's a conversation we might need to have. Brian, I'm happy to talk with you tomorrow. I think a little bit more about what Victoria's getting at.
No,
and how
I understand what she's
Okay.
getting at. I understand perfectly well what she's getting at. I'm just saying that the reality on the ground is, you know, and I'm not, I want to differentiate between, you know, deeply subsidized housing that targets, you know, 30% and under AMI,
Mhm.
but that, you know, there is public housing, you know, when I say public housing, I'm talking about housing that's HUD's building or that's directly being built by the government, okay? Or there's a subsidized housing through the public-private means that we're generally getting affordable housing with these days. I want to distinguish between the two.
No,
Okay.
totally, but you can't, like a 40B doesn't answer the needs of.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, you know, there's very few
So-
developers who can
Yeah.
do deeply subsidized housing without,
Understood. So to get to back to Nels, my message for Nels, and if it's not clear, I can just articulate it to him myself, but page 23, I don't know how we're gonna get less than 30% AMI without some sort of public subsidy.
no, I
And
understand perfectly what you're
I don't know a lot of developers that are gonna want to build that. So I'd like to see it in the mix, but I don't know.
So you want to
that's-
see more strategizing and talk and discussion about deeply subsidized
Yeah,
housing.
Absolutely. You
yeah.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
And then
I
my last
understood what you're
comment,
saying, yeah.
my last comment is on page, this is the last one, page 24. Please have him add he's talking about the end of this time frame. It's a 5-year time frame for the plan. It goes through 2029. And he needs to add our expected total inventory. Like in 2029, what does he expect approximately Lancaster's total housing to be? Total housing, like, you know, the whole enchilada, so that we can then figure out how many affordable units we need in comparison to that total housing number.
Right, because our SHI at 10% is a moving target if you keep adding to the denominator. You
You
know,
got it. That's it. That's all I got. Those are my comments. If you want to package them up and send them to him and just
yeah,
copy me on it.
I got them all written down and I can get those, you know, get those in an email to Nels tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it, Brian. And then just copy me on that, and
Mhm.
that's all I've got. And then anything else, or can we move on? No. Kelly, you said you had some insights, but not for tonight. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was just more conversation I was actually looking to have with you offline, only because I just found some of the statistics really interesting.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
major one being, age brackets, and the data that came along with specifically the 50 to 64 aging population. And it kind of comes back to a bit of my harping on the need of, thinking about these people as they age, and kind of the middle bracket of folks that don't fall into the less than 30% that are able to get, subsidies. But we're in a growing economy where things are increasing, but not always pay rates. So it kind of goes along with what we're going to be bleeding into next, which is, the reason why we
Yeah.
do education series here. So that's more of what I have, which is a little bit in the weeds, and kind of
Yeah.
having a more in-depth professional conversation with you.
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds like we're gonna have that. Maybe we can do that as we meet to talk about the housing series too.
That would be great. Yeah.
Okay, let's move to that. Let's move to, so item number 5, affordable housing series. Kelly has been working on, as you know, Housing Trust folks, a series for community outreach, educational outreach, for this fall. And Kelly, can you just give us an update? I know you sent me an email the other day about it. I just want, for the benefit of people that watch this meeting and its recording, and the other Housing Trust folks, what's happening?
Absolutely. So we have 5 separate classes. I have 7 presentations in total. Some folks will be doing a AM and a PM session for our families and working folks. So Victoria is going to be doing one on the actual Affordable Housing Trust and kind of what that means, possibly having a special guest along with her to talk a bit about the lottery process. We are going to be having our executive director from Bigelow do a public housing 101 and talk about the applications through CHAMP and kind of the process there. Our own Carolyn Reed is going to be doing a Habitat for Humanity class as well. And then our Kendra Dickinson and kind of special guests, Clear Path, are going to be coming in and doing some demystifying veteran loans and their requirements, and how to become eligible for mortgages, the benefits that come along with that. And then we also have a housing series coming up from RCAP Solutions. They'll be doing 2 separate courses, so I'm pretty excited about that. And they are going to be representing also possibly through Central Housing Alliance. They kind of are really more so referring to RCAP because of the core combination of programs that they run together. So that's where we are. I will have a flyer out for the next crier, and we'll start promoting that. But these classes are coming up in the fall. So we're looking to host these all in the September and October months, wrapping up before shameless plug our Halloween on the Green in the end of October.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's really great. I said it before, I'll say it again. I'm super excited to have this housing series, because I feel like, Kelly, I feel like what you're doing is taking us to the next level, where we're kind of broadcasting to the community about affordable housing, and reaching folks that may not even realize that they qualify, or maybe this is going beyond affordable housing into like the veterans loans and things like that, where it might be someone who doesn't necessarily qualify for an affordable unit, capital A, deed restricted, but may be kind of scratching their heads about, how can I buy a house, but is a veteran, and that veteran financing
Yeah.
could actually seal the deal for them. But maybe it's just, like they kind of know it's out there, but they don't necessarily know how to connect all these dots. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's really great and user friendly. So
Thank you. And I will land this plane, I promise, shortly. I just want to add to this in regards to everything we were just talking about and the production plan. I mean, all of us have read it, and you saw the slides on specifically like the cost burden on renters and on homeowners and things of that nature. So again, just to what you're saying, I'm excited. And if you guys have any ideas, of other presentations, send them my way. We are not going to just stop this in October. It's really an ongoing annual idea with everything we're teaching. But to specifically also talk about what those burdens are, I'd like to dive into that section of this again when we talk, because I think that there's probably a lot we can do for people who aren't aware of some of these services that we can likely provide.
Small note, I'll email you, Kelly, about this, but it just popped into my head. I've been meaning to tell you that I ran into a woman somebody I know who now is working for an affordable housing agency, and she was telling, it wasn't one of the big ones it wasn't like CHAPA or MHP or one of those. It was one that I'm less familiar with, but there's this huge pot of money she was telling me about, and she's kind of overseeing this grant program for it's first-time home buyers of it's a mix of, you have to be a first-time home buyer and first-generation American or something.
NeighborWorks.
No, it wasn't that. I mean, it might be connected to that, Brian. The agency it was not that agency, but I have her name and her email address, and I'll copy you on it, Brian, as well.
Okay.
But I'm going to try to connect. I want to connect Kelly with this woman because it's a program that sounded really fabulous. It's kind of a niche, but I'm sure we have folks that would meet the criteria in Lancaster. And she's overseeing it. And there's a deadline for the application, but it's like November 30th or something. I mean, it's a ways out there.
Fantastic. Yeah,
It's
definitely.
something like, I don't know that I'm expressing it exactly correctly, but it's something like there are two criteria. You're a first-time home buyer and you are first-generation American or something like that. You have to meet those two or something, but sounded really great. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can get her to come and do a little presentation about that. So her office is closer to Boston, but she can come out and do something for us, I think. That's it on the affordable housing series. Going once, going twice. All right. Updates to the SHI pipeline. The first one there, our 40R Smart Growth District, is in italics because we already heard from Bob directly on that. And then I have on page 2, Neck Farm Estates. Brian, in just a short summary, where do we stand with the 11 units on Neck Road?
Okay, well, there was indication just this past week that they were able to get their SOAR credits.
Okay.
SOAR credits, so that was probably the biggest obstacle.
Yes.
There's still it's not just, I don't want to predict what the ZBA is going to say, but there's still there exists, whether with the ZBA board or the sentiment in general that the project is too dense for that small lot, and there is. I just want to be careful of how I say it. There is going to be a request. I would imagine there's going to be a request for them to come back with a less dense footprint. They have come back, and if I can just keep this within this group, well, this is being recorded. So I mean,
no, that not within this group. It's a recorded meeting.
I know. I just said that, Victoria. I know, but I mean, I just want to be careful. I don't want to jump the gun and saying anything, but I think there's going to be, there is going to make some efforts to decrease the footprints, or the footprint of the project, or what. But I mean, the applicant is pretty much insisting that it will not be economical if they reduce the number of units overall. And so which is going to, but then you just get into a lot of the legalities of otherwise moving forward. So it's I just don't want to say too much, but I think so that's where we are. Okay, so they got their SOAR credits, and then it's going to be a discussion. The discussion will ensue about the density of the project.
Got it. Okay, so
that's where it's headed. That's the direction of the next meeting, and it's next. I believe I think the next meeting is gonna be in July. They did request, and we did vote, the ZBA did vote an extension of the 180-day approval period.
Okay, great. And developer has agreed to that.
Yes, well, he was the one who requested it,
Oh,
yeah,
he
and the
requested it, great.
ZBA agreed to it, yeah.
Great. Okay, good. And so, third or fourth, are they on for the fourth Thursday, or are they on a special schedule for this
No,
one
it would
project
be the fourth Thursday
in July?
in July, yes.
Okay.
27th, is it?
Fourth Thursday in July is 25th.
25th, yes.
So they're not meeting in June on this?
ZBA is meeting, but they're not meeting, they're not coming before the board, I don't believe.
They have a
I could be,
continuance.
I might have that mixed up, but I'm pretty sure that they did request
A continuance.
yeah,
Okay.
a continuance. No, actually, you know what? Okay, so I believe they will be back before the board June, but already
Okay. They're
days.
anticipating going beyond the 180 days. I got it. So they'll be there in June, but they already know they're going to need to go past 180 days. So, okay. Got it. All right. Thank you for that. And on Harbor Classic Homes, our 2 units, have they been back to the planning board? I know
No,
they
they're
got another
still,
cease and desist.
well, they're still working on this. They're starting to do road construction, and they're still working on their, clearing up that cease and desist. They have a lot of site work to do. We were out there last week, or the week before last week, going to start looking at their stormwater preparations for the road construction.
Okay.
And they have some work to do before they can get the go ahead to start building the road.
And this issue that came to the Housing Trust of farming out the affordable units to some other entity, we wrote our opinion letter about that, but that hasn't come back up again?
No, not yet.
Okay.
And
okay,
Peter is aware of it.
great. And the last one, I just have a quick update. This last item is the 1 unit in Mr. Safi's rehab. So everybody knows that he is rehabbing in slow motion 2 buildings on Main Street. And it's a total of 9 units, which triggers inclusionary zoning. So Lancaster is owed 1 affordable. And we thought we had all the paperwork in place, and we're so excited to send it in to the state to get it onto our SHI. And then there was one thing missing in our collection of stuff for the state. It was a copy of the building permit. And I found out from Mike Silva, our building inspector, that he in fact has not applied for his building permit for the building that has the 1 affordable. He's applied for the building permit for the other one.
Not
But
for the
he
affordable
didn't,
unit.
yeah, so we can't send that in. So we're back on hold again with Mr. Safi. But we've given him a gentle nudge to do that, because we want the affordable unit built and we want to get credit for it and all that. So, and most importantly, we want someone to live in it. So it would be nice if he would just get the building permit for that. Number 7, there are no updates to our existing subsidized housing inventory that I'm aware of. No notifications were received or anything about units coming up for rent or for sale. Correspondence, I don't have correspondence for affordable housing trust correspondence. Public comment, Dick, do you have any public comment this evening? Going once?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Okay, and then new business. I have a new business item that I'd like to share with the trust. So I'll try to be as succinct as possible. We have this money in CPA funds. As I think everybody's aware, we have approximately $42,000 right now, but it's not ours in the sense that it hasn't been transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust. It's sitting in the CPA account. And I was reading something and talking with the chair of the CPA committee, and I read about this online. We can actually request that that be transferred over to the housing trust, so we have it at the ready. And I think that it has to go to town meeting like a CPA project. But the reason I've been thinking about this so much is that there was something that came up at a Board of Health meeting recently with some a need for some emergency housing, some folks in town that are currently in trailers, and it rubs up against our town bylaws on trailers and what's called temporary housing. So it's really unfortunate, and so so folks are getting evicted and so forth. So I don't know. I just feel like not only for that case, but for other cases, if another opportunity were to come along, or God forbid we have another pandemic or something where people are losing jobs left and right and things like that. I don't know. There's a whole host of reasons why it could make sense to have that money already in the Affordable Housing Trust account so that we can act more quickly than having to wait until a town meeting and present a project to town meeting. But it's a new business thing. I'm putting it out there. Items under new business are not usually like big discussion items. I just kind of wanted to put it out there and whet your appetite. So any quick thoughts on like reasons why we would or we wouldn't want to just get that money into the housing trust so we can act appropriately when an opportunity comes down the pike?
Yes. Well, that's the whole idea between CPA and Affordable Housing Trust, is for the Affordable Housing Trust to be more nimble and not have to go to town meeting. That's the whole idea. Then it's just, the CPA saying that they want a proposed use for that money before they transfer it to the AHT. Personally, I think the way it should work is the AHT needs to have that money, and not only for affordable housing, but investing and making that money grow.
Right.
I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think CPA, it's not doing anything in CPA. It's only going to work if it's with the trust.
Kelly, Deb, or Jason, any quick thoughts on that under new business? Under, on the topic of transferring the CPA money out. I want to be careful that I'm bringing it up under new business, so I don't want to like have voting and motions and all that, because it's not a bespoke agenda item, but I just wanted to bring it up under new business.
Yeah, I don't really have any comments on it.
Okay.
Are you sure of the procedure?
So Linnea, who's our chair, thinks that it can be transferred out to the housing trust for emergency housing and for opportunities for affordable housing that are like time sensitive. But obviously to be vetted with Stuart Saganor, the head of CPA for the Commonwealth.
But if it's a law that you get 10%, why does it have to be approved by anybody?
Right.
We can't vote no against the law. I don't understand the procedure.
Right.
All right, well.
I was going to say something similar. I was going to say I started doing a little bit of reading after some of our emails. I don't understand why they'd have to vote on it, because I too took it, as Dick was saying. And then my second question on operations side was, I didn't know if Linnea had any materials on the procedure as an example of if I were to say, maybe I had to call you to pull the trigger on using this for some emergency housing, given some of my line of work. I don't know what the procedure or policy is on that, and if she had it. So operationally, I'd like to find out what that looks like. So when everyone's on here, we can have a agenda item discussion on it.
Perfect. I like it.
I understand that you have to get approval to spend the money, but I don't see why there has to be an approval to put it in your account.
Okay, let me do a little digging on this with Linnea and the state and then find out and report back to the trust on that. And we'll have an agenda item on it. I mean, when somebody needs housing, like ASAP, it's not very helpful to say, well, gee, we have a town meeting in 6 months. I
Yeah.
can bring this up.
I think, yeah, again, I'm just going back to the idea. I think you have to, the whole idea of having the Affordable Housing Trust is that the trust has the money and it's investing money and it has this money and it can act nimbly. It doesn't have to wait for town meeting. That's in the statute. That
Yep.
should be in the Declaration of Trust.
Okay, got it. Thank you, everyone.
Are you done with that?
I am under new business. Are you backing us up to public comment?
I guess I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just asking a question.
Go ahead. It's fine.
If you need approval to spend the money, right? If you need approval to spend the money at a town warrant, how does that help you have the money available to spend? I mean, if you've got to wait 6 months for a town meeting to actually spend the money, what did you gain by having the money in your bank account?
Right. Well, I think the idea of CPA funds in general is that the residents of the town get to decide how the CPA money, which is taxpayer money, partly taxpayer money, partly a state, like a state contribution as well, but which is also ultimately another taxpayer payment, but that the residents have some say in how CPA funds are allocated for the projects in town.
Absolutely.
So that's the premise of CPA money. However, there is this issue with housing that comes up with very time sensitive things. And I think what Linnea was trying to explain was that there's a way to have your CPA funds that are allocated for housing, the portion in the housing category, just be at the ready for the Affordable Housing Trust. And that's and so they can take the 42,000
no
and send it.
problem with that, but if you can't spend it till you get town approval, how does it help?
Right, I don't know, Dick.
There's something
I don't
wrong
know.
with that. There's something wrong with the whole theory. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, I'll find out.
Okay.
But if we can have it in our bank account,
right.
then we are acting, we can act more quickly.
I'm not opposed to that, Victoria. I'm just want to make sure that you're able to spend it as you need it.
Right. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna move on. I don't have any other new business. I don't see any hands. Communication, I want to always advertise this Neck Farm project because I know there are a lot of folks that want to comment on it. So it sounds, Brian, like it's continued to Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at 7 o'clock in the Nashaway Room, and which is in the Prescott Building, and also via Zoom. And the next Affordable Housing Trust meeting would normally be our first Thursday in July. However, that is July 4th holiday. So I need to get the flavor of the wishes of the Housing Trust. What would you like to do about July? I myself am out of pocket right after that, and I'm traveling, so but I could do something on the 3rd if we want to have a meeting on a Wednesday instead, or just skip the meeting altogether and meet again at the beginning of August. We do have a consultant trying to get our housing production plan done, and they may want some feedback before August. So it would be nice to have a meeting in July if we could.
Victoria, just on that note, I did hear from Nels late today. He did say, you said the 2 dates that he put out you were traveling, and you suggested the 24th. He did agree to that. He could be available on the 24th.
Oh, great, great. What Brian's referring to is a community forum on the housing production plan. So as part of producing a housing production plan, towns typically have a few public outreach forums where they present the research so far and invite folks to come and talk and have hopefully fruitful discussions about affordable housing and housing in general in the town. So we're discussing that date, and it looks like the 24th of July, Brian, will work.
Yes.
So housing trust members, I'll send something out about it, but go ahead and pencil that in. It would be good if the housing trust folks were there. I'm not going to run a meeting, like we can't deliberate and have voting and that kind of stuff, but we can certainly all show up and we can even speak. We can make comments and things. We just can't deliberate as a board. But back to planning our July meeting. What's the pleasure of the board? Would you be amenable to a July 3rd, a Wednesday night?
I'm away.
You're away
won't
for the
be there.
3rd? Okay. And we could also do, I don't want to do the 25th, that for Thursday. I'm away for the 4th, 11th and 18th. And I don't suggest the 4th because that conflicts with the ZBA, and they have a significant affordable housing project going on there. So
Well, the other members aren't here, so.
and the other members aren't here, so.
Well, Carolyn will probably be gone by then, but I don't even know.
Right. Yep. Good point. All right. I'm going to just suggest that we just not meet in July and we all try to show up for the 24th public forum. And if there's a burning issue with Nels, Brian, we'll just have to deal with it, by email and stuff. I mean, we can't deliberate, obviously, but we can, if there's something that he needs us to, I don't know. We'll just have to push it out to August, I guess. We can notify trust members of things. We can't deliberate by email. And he'll just have to wait until we can get together as a group on the first Thursday in August.
Okay.
Okay. Fortunately, that's August 1st, the first Thursday in August. So, all right, good enough. So no July meeting. However, we are all trying to attend the housing forum as part of the housing production plan on July 24th. And then we'll have our next meeting on August 1st at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Is there anything else this evening, Housing Trust, before we adjourn? No? All right. In that case, is there a motion to adjourn
So moved.
Housing Trust? Thank you, Jason. And a second. Thank you,
Second.
Deb. Any discussion? No. Do a quick roll call vote to close us out this evening. Trustee Allison?
Yes.
Trustee Williams?
Yes.
And Trustee Petracca, yes. We are adjourned, Housing Trust, at 8:20 p.m. Thank you, Brian, as always.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Victoria.
Good night.